What part of your golf game are you developing?
Mate, I need to develop my driving.
Yeah.
My irons and my short game good, like really good, but I can't. Like, I'm more than happy to keep a hybrid off the tee. Like, I need to get my big dog out and be consistent at that. I've got baseball grip, so it probably doesn't help me too much, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It's so different, eh? Your irons, I'm the same. You can be tidy, you can be within your technique,
Yeah.
but you get that big boomstick out and tee it up. It's like,
Oh
oh,
God,
yeah.
yeah. I lose all not even lose all confidence. Just I lose all composure when it comes out. Like
Yeah.
nice easy swing, and I will whack. Like it's
Yeah.
like yeah.
And you
Anyway,
know that harder doesn't make it go far. You've for
I
further.
know,
You've
I
learned the
know.
lesson, but you go,
It's like
no,
goal kicking.
yeah, yeah.
And when you finish with that, I suppose you're gonna fly, huh?
Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. Come on and slam, if you wanna jam.
Nick Evans, welcome to the podcast. Great to see you.
Cheers, Pete. Thanks for having me, man.
And you're back in New Zealand, and I have seen that you've been away for 16 years. How often do you get back, and have you enjoyed your trip?
Yeah, so yeah, been actually 17 years now, mate. Coming up 17 years, been away, and the last time I was back in New Zealand was 7 years ago. So I came back 2017, I think it was, and did a bit of CPD with a few of the Super Rugby teams. And I think just having three kids and just the length of the trip, it's just kind of haven't got, it's too expensive and it's tough to get back. And our off season is May, June, which is not great in New Zealand. So it ends up not being really a holiday. So we're in a unique situation now where obviously with the sad loss of three teams during the Six Nations, we can have a bit of a break, and there's the Prem Cup, which is like a development competition. So there was an opportunity for me to get back and take one of my young boys back, and it's the first time he's been back since nearly 10 years ago. So so we took the opportunity. So just based up here at Mangawai Heads, which is a lovely part of the world, and I can say, I mean, it's one thing, like, I don't know about if Kiwis like take it for granted. They probably don't, but even the first few days is like, man, it's just so beautiful. And
Yeah.
like London's great, but you come back here and it's the beach, the water, just everything, the quality of life. So it's been really good, mate, and a bit of fishing and bit of surfing and things like that. So lovely time.
How have you adjusted to that? Because I've been to London and typical overcast grey. I managed to get out to Harlequins. You weren't there at the time. You were with England. But like you've been there, like you said, 17 years, like big difference, eh? Living and just life.
Yeah, massive difference, mate. I think it's one of those things, you acclimatise to it, you get used to it. We've got a new defence coach from Australia, Jason Gilmore, and we say it to him you'll get used to it. The winter seems to last forever, but mate, you acclimatise and just become part of your routine. And like, I know everyone thinks about London, and especially in winter, is it's grey all the time, but it is really beautiful. It can be, albeit cold, and you got to put up with the bad weather like you guys do here. And it is really nice, but it's for me, it's just a different pace of life. For example, we came back here, and my young fella was hungry off the plane, so we went to McDonald's on a weekday at 1 o'clock, and there was no one in there. And I was like, if this was London, that would be rammed. You know what I mean? There's just more people. Everything happens really fast. Everyone's in a hurry to do everything, which you kind of get used to. It is a nice place. And obviously you've got Europe, a hop, skip and a jump away, which is fantastic. Some of the places the family's been, you just don't get, it's not accessible to Kiwis, which is great for us.
You mentioned Gilly there. A lot of our listeners will know Gilly from Australia. I was lucky enough to watch him coach Australia under 20s. I went in for a week of PD with them, and man, energy and detail, and he knows exactly what he wants out of his defence, right? How's he getting on? How's he started with Quins?
Yeah, really good. I think the challenge for Gilly was coming to a club that traditionally just didn't really have an appetite to vend. That's probably fair. Quinn's, very, very attack minded, which is great for me as an attack coach. There's pressures that come with that. But we were always, we'll score more than you, and that was the kind of mantra, and that was the belief that we could do it. And at times we would, even when our defense was really poor, we're still making, European semis last year, winning the league off the back of our attack. So, but it's not sustainable. If you want to be consistent around winning trophies and being competitive at the top end, you had to improve the defence. So Gilly's been brilliant. He's come in and made it really clear, some real clear principles. And like you say, the energy around it and the clarity that he gives the lads. There's been a real shift for us around our defence, and it's hopefully complements our attack and gives us a little bit of an all court game, which we've needed.
Yeah, team identity. So you played for the Blues, and I know you've just been into the Blues. What were you doing there? And I guess it'd be awesome to hear a little bit more around like when you were with the Blues, what you felt around team identity, what you've seen with Vern Cotter. He's come in and he's had a huge shift. There's one of title, and then just go back to circle back to that Harlequins way, because you guys take pride in all out attack, and we're different. We try to be a different style of team. So, yeah, big question.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, took the opportunity to come in and see the Blues. It's been obviously been a while since I first went back there, and I think it was interesting to speak. I mean, it's got a fantastic coaching group. Really good coaching group. Yeah, spent a bit of time with Dan Hallingar, who Ice Craig was there, McGrath. Tito Fisher's there, Fiki's there. Some real quality. Some quality people, and I think probably before last year, talking to Fiki, that was I think kind of everyone was having a crack at the Blues, and kind of no backbone, and like kind of easy rollover, and you can get them when the pressure comes on, and I think Vern came in and really changed that. It was fascinating to watch. He's very, very old school. I would say it's quite different to a lot of the Super Rugby teams I would imagine around the country. I haven't been to them, but certainly a lot different around, a lot of the European clubs, I would say. Maybe a little bit more his time in French. There's a lot of instinctive play. There's a lot of there's detail, but it's more, really play what you see around the power game that they have. And I think he changed that mindset last year and probably caught the competition on the hop a little bit. Yeah. And this year, I think probably teams are probably, learning to cope with that a little bit, and they've got to find different ways around that. But certainly he's, watching him on the training field, very old school, not afraid to give a bark when it's needed, demands standards, as all coaches do, but he does it in the Vern Cotter way, which is brilliant. And again, like to answer your question, getting back to that identity, but allowing then that identity of the Blues to flow, allowing like the guys at Caleb Clark Bowden at the back, Harry to pull the strings, getting Rico on the ball, Tutu out there in wide channels and things like that. So waiting for those opportunities. So yeah, it was funny. I had a chat with Greg Feek, and we were talking about the Quins Blues kind of similarities, and I was speaking about our DNA was all attack and we needed to change the D, and he asked where it came from. And I think what we did really well the year we won the league 2019-20 I think it was, when we had a big shift, was really tapping back into our ancestors and looking actually what Quins stand for. And if you go back, a very short story, I won't go into too much detail, but Quins and Wasps were together. They were one club. I think it was Hampstead Heath it was called. And there was a group of the lads that wanted to play the game different, wanted to challenge themselves, wanted to play more rugby, wanted to throw the ball around. So basically that then became two clubs. Wasps went one way and Quins was then formed. And so straight away, if you go all the way back to 1866 when the club was formed, there's a DNA around wanting to play rugby straight from there. Adrian Stoop then came in and played English rugby. He went from Quins and then into English rugby and wanted England to play a different way. So he then, tried to promote this, wanting to play fast, wanting to play this high tempo type of rugby. People would come from up north and play and come down and play. And you look back all the way through, and a lot of these names I'm going to throw out there, but people won't know. But if you go back into the history, Waver Wakefield would come down from up north and added a bit of steel, but wanted to play rugby. People would come from overseas and want to play rugby, so they'd come to Quins and play this high tempo, free flowing rugby. So, it's fascinating when you go back. So that's where the identity came from, and so I think we've really tapped back into that and really bought into the fact that that's us, that's who we are. Now, you can't traditionally keep winning titles just on the back of that. So you have to add, sharpen your sword a little bit and add tools to the tool belts. Hence us wanting to, defend better and have a more detailed kicking game and all that kind of stuff, which we do have and which we have had in the past. But it really keeps us in check. It really keeps us, when we do veer off a little bit, it's up to the powers to be and the guys that are in charge to bring us back on course and align us to the DNA, because that's what the club is, and that's what gets the best out of the players that you recruit and the coaches that you recruit, all aligned to this DNA model of what the club is.
You used the word recruit, and that's what I was about to ask you a question about. You got recruited, so you went over to Harlequins. Do you think that in those negotiations and convos with coaches, that was what they liked about you, was that flair and your attack mindset and your skill set to execute on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think certainly how they sold the club to me. At that time, there was a few clubs that I could have gone to. I think Leicester was one of them, which have been a very different identity or way of playing. Very successful club, very famous club. Cardiff would have been another one, which would have been a little bit similar, right. Probably in the middle of the two, but they definitely sold the club in terms of, look, this is who we are. This is the way we want to play. We've got a young, ambitious group that's coming through. We basically need an experienced 10 that can come in and help organise and help allow these young kids to flourish, which was a great challenge for me. I thought that was a fantastic challenge at the time of my life. Being 28, still had some good footy in front of me. Still felt that I could play and influence the game a lot. And I loved the challenge of the fact that this young group of English talent that wanted to play the game a different way to what the English up here were traditionally playing. And so that was part of that. And obviously we had a few changes, and then Conor O'Shea came in, and he really got back to, really brought us back into that DNA, really allowed us to play with no fear. Took a lot of the burden and, outcome-based scenarios out of our hands, put it all onto him, and just said, boys, just go out and play. Go and play B Quins. And there was just a freedom that kind of unlocked everything. And then obviously we went on to win the league and the Amlin Cup a couple of years in a row. So it was fantastic to be part of.
And we will be right back. There is a difference between being childish and childlike. I wanted to take an opportunity to explain that intro music again. You might remember it from the famous movie with Michael Jordan, Space Jam.
And when you finish with that, I suppose you're gonna fly, huh?
That was my movie that I grew up, my childhood anthem that we used to throw on all the time. My favourite movie. You'd head out to the driveway, practice the move, the Monstars, and just all the things that went along with it. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, the golf scene. If you've watched Space Jam, you know what I'm talking about. That movie really inspired me, and I wanted to take a little bit of time just to explain why it's important to remain childlike rather than childish when it comes to coaching, and if you're a player, keeping this as part of your game and how you train. Every time I hear that theme music come on for this podcast, it just reminds me about those feelings and keeping the imagination. I've got two stories. One of you is from when I witnessed Susie Bates, famous New Zealand cricketer, and also when working with Cameron Munster from the Melbourne Storm. Susie Bates had some time off. She came down to Otago. She quite often trains with the basketball team down there because she knows a lot of the girls and just likes to reconnect and come along and shoot the ball. It was a hard session. They were getting up and down, and there was a break. There was a water break. And everyone left the court to, catch your breath. And all I witnessed was Susie still on the court, between the legs, doing her moves, and she was counting herself down to shoot a buzzer beater. 3, 2, 1. Susie shoots it like she was commentating herself, just like we all do when we're kids. Now, this is Susie. She's a little bit older, and she's got that child mentality where she's still shooting her own game winners, commentating herself, and time's been added to the clock as she misses the shot and shoots it again. Big smile on her face. And those athletes, those ones that can just enjoy being on the court, enjoying the session, are constantly the ones that continue to stay in the game and have long, successful careers, because every day they have that inner child that they tap into. Cameron Munster was the other one. Melbourne Storm training. This guy was a pest. He was walking around pre-session and he was talking about selling candy. Craig Bellamy had talked about no dummies. That's his big thing. Don't take dummies on defence. And a few of the boys had taken some dummies, or as Cam put it, taken some candy. And he was just walking around. Who wants some candy? Today I'm going to be handing out candy. And he was doing all these outrageous dummies and little grubbers and just being a pest all session. This is NRL. This is as big as it gets. The Melbourne Storm, and Cam is walking around training, selling candy and having a lot of fun with it. That's what I mean about you can still do your thing. You can still perform, but keep that inner child. It is so important. And the last thought I'd leave you with is we all know how hard Aaron Smith used to celebrate those All Black tries on the field with a big smile on his face. Back to the podcast. 28, what a great year. Like, when you're 28 year old playing first five, number 10, I reckon you've finally got to a really good place. Game understanding, your goal kicking's tidy, you get the game, you know how you can contribute. That must have been really fun for you to go over there. You mentioned coaching group. I think that I've been lucky enough to get into different environments, and the clubs that are humming, they usually have a strong visionary. The head coach knows exactly what they're about. But man, they've got 4 or 5 assistants that are just humming and coaching hard and delivering. So you put a big emphasis on getting into those sort of environments yourself as a coach?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's someone. I think I was talking to a mentor, my coach educator, and we spitball and throw things off each other. He's a real good kind of mentor and sounding board for me in my coaching career. He's and I remember talking to Tabs when Tab Manson was at the club, and he was a big on tours, like pick where you want to go to see what you want, if you know what I mean. I know it sounds really stupid, but like if you want to learn about rugby, go to a rugby club. If you want to learn about coaching and how to deliver information, like don't necessarily always go to a rugby club, like go to another organization. Like he told a great story of when he went to the ballet, like the London Ballet, and just around how they transfer information and the learning and the directness and the empathy and how they get the best out of these dancers, because man, that's like, you think our environment's hard, like, I mean, that's, you know, there's 2-3 shows a night, whatever it is, and you know they're having to nail all these multiple parts. You know, the Cirque du Soleil, some people going there. You know, football environments, getting into football environments, cricket environments, and just a few different things, just to see like how people impart information, how people teach, how people coach, how people develop. You know, if I want to know about rugby, I'll go to a rugby environment, which I did at the Blues. You know, I wanted to see how their rugby environment is similar, what we can learn from a rugby point of view. Yes, you will always learn around the coaching environment, which that they had a fantastic one. But I was there for rugby. But I think a lot of my learning comes from hopefully is just getting out and challenging yourself, going to really different environments and kind of understand, how do they impart knowledge? How do they develop these young dancers or footballers or, you know, young associates coming through in a real high-powered CEO environment? What can I learn and how can that? Because I don't have a background in teaching. You know, like a lot of the great coaches that I've had were teachers. You know, like Graham Henry. You know, Shag was. You know, and I know he polarized his opinion, but Eddie Jones was a teacher. You know what I mean? Like Gilly's got a bit of a background in teaching, so you know, like I never had that. So I want to know what those subtleties are about and how do you get the best out of best out of people, which is the most important thing. How am I getting the best out of that person? Because they're two different people. There's a performance person, and then there's the person. And for me, there's a real difference between the two, and it's tapping into both of those to get the best out of the whole thing. Yeah. So, really, really fascinating kind of area. It's just trying to find time to do it. You know, just trying to find time. Our program's nearly a full year. So it's trying to,
Yeah.
you've got a family as well. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm going away for a week, and it doesn't sit well some of the time.
Coaching mentor, what are you currently this season trying to implement and get better at as a coach?
Yeah, I think probably my big thing this year is because we've put a lot of effort and time into defence, and so a little bit of time has been taken away from attack there, and I probably felt really at the start of this year I probably wasn't as effective as my as I have been around trying to simplify things because I had to because of the lack of time. So I found like I ended up being about 2-3 weeks behind where I wanted to be in terms of my messaging, in terms of what I wanted to get out of the players. So
How did that
thing
go
was,
down at coaches' meetings? Whoa, what's all this time on defence?
yeah, no. But it was, it's not something that just happens out of the blue. It's an organised thing. Like I think we sat down at the end of the season. It was like, look, attack metrics and KPIs are all this, and we feel this is bad about attack, which is excellent. The defence is the side of the game we had to improve. We got a new defence coach coming in; he's going to need time. And I probably, to be honest, being really honest here, like I probably didn't fight for as much time as I needed in that early stages. So I was probably caught on the hop a little bit there because I knew the importance of us having a good defence. We had to balance that up. We had to get that balance. So I probably just allowed that to slip a little bit, which disappointed me a bit. So I'm really focused on trying to get that back, that balance out, which we have a little bit. And that just all comes down to my messaging and just being really, really clear and have real clarity on what we're doing. So we've done that, and we've got ourselves back on. But it was a real kind of, you can see how quickly it slips. You can kind of just go, oh, the attack's been brilliant for the last 10 years, and it doesn't take long for you take your mind off it, but you take your foot off the throttle a little bit, and you start not letting standards slip, but you just go away from things that you probably did before and keeping on top of them, and it goes away pretty quick. So it was a real good learning experience around that, and so it just got me back on the horse a bit.
Yeah, I want to dig deeper on that. So on field, what does Nick Evans coaching better look like, sound like actual actionable things that you're trying to implement with key messaging?
Sorry, mate, you just broke up there.
Oh, sorry. So on field, keen to dig a bit deeper on it. What does your improvements actually sound like with messaging and being clearer? And then to follow up on that, long season, how do you keep attack fresh? Is it new moves? Is it little tweaks? It's like specials?
Yeah, good question. So for me, my coaching on the run, my messaging on coaching on the run is really important. Our sessions are really fluid. We try and limit, apart from specific times when they get together and solve problems themselves. My coaching on the run messaging and fix ups are really important. So what I mean by that is, like, I don't, unless it's a massive system failure, like I'll step in and blow the whistle, double whistle, stop. Like this is not what we said we we're going to do, whatever. But just little pickups and coaching on the run are really important. Like, how can you impart like a 20-second chat on the run, and just allow a real fix up and a kind of scenario based fix up on the back of that. So that's really important. And then allowing them to solve problems, and then if things need to be reviewed and done afterwards, or at the end of that little block, we go. Like, what happens if we keep stopping it all the time? Is one, that's not what the game kind of demands of you, and these guys have got to solve problems. They've got to learn to solve problems on themselves, and so we kind of let that run a little bit. So that's really important. So that looks like, so I'll be running around, and I think, like, especially in a D drill, like, your co-coaching is really important. Just being a gay, sometimes it's easy for coaches just to sit back. Oh, this is not my drill, or this is not my part of the game. So you sit back and you're kind of just watching, but how are you having an impact on anyone, on everyone, and whether it's one side of the ball or the other side of the ball. So that kind of co-coaching is really important.
And keeping the attack fresh throughout a season?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's a good question, because I think we have a real specific way we want to play, but it's always looking for new innovations. I think, like, from a play point of view, we will always have, like, I'm pretty consistent around like my plays, structured plays off lineouts and scrums. Like I'd have real banker plays that probably don't change too much, but just the subtle changes within them change. I've made the mistake of my first few years standing up every week with 28 slides and 28 new slides the week after, and then I think it was I can't remember the player. He came up to me, one of Danny Carey said, "Mate, what are you doing? Like, we can't just keep like." I was just like, "Oh my god, yeah, like." I would have hated that as a player, and I'm doing it as a coach, and it was basically a tick the box for make me feel better. So, like really clear plays, but we'll always have a couple of special plays that get the boys excited. Whether you use them or not is a different story in the game, but they're there to get the boys going, and just trying to find different ways of challenging teams and getting on the ball and little phase tweaks and things like that. We're very clear on how we want to play. We've got our little shapes and that we want to play. And I guess the game that I see it going now is can we actually get away from being too detailed, if you know what I mean? Like, I'd love it just to play even more and more heads up now. I think that's kind of the way the game's going. And people get bogged down with pods of 3, and pods have to be there and they have to be in perfect shape. As I think if you watch kind of what the French are doing at the moment, I know they've got the cattle for it, but it's just attack the space, and if the space is there, you're playing the speed of ball, and you've got the shape to fall back on to create opportunities if you need to. So
and probably I was going to ask you about Wayne Smith and some of the coaches that you would have had through that your All Black time as well. And I think one of the absolute beauties of that period when you were in there was just like simple, so not too many back strikes or whatever, and it's all like manipulation, deception, finding offloads, beating defenders inside a relatively simple plan, right? So who's inspired you? Who are those coaches as a player you're like, man, I'm taking that and I'm bringing that with me into my coaching game?
Yeah, Smithy was a big one. I think like he was the one around, definitely around the person and performance person as well. Like he'd take the time to really know about you, what was happening outside of rugby. It just formed a really good relationship with him, and then came the performance feedback and the performance challenge around what he was trying to do. So that was the first thing. I really resonated with coaches like that, and that's certainly how I see myself in the real philosophy around I'm definitely try and be relationship first, and then drive the performance after that. And I enjoy that part of it. I think round with Smithy as well. Yeah, it was just simple, and it was the detail within those plays, and it probably goes back to what I said before around the banker plays that I have, and really refining it down is like teams will know what's coming. But if you manipulate the right people and you create the right numbers and you create the right overload and you create the 1v1 that you want to, they've still got to stop it. You know what I mean? And you're still manipulating that space. You're still manipulating the defender that you want. And if you're not quite getting it, what's your what if? What's your bailout? Where's the space? Is it in behind? Is it over the top? You know what I mean? It's having all those. Yeah. So I think Smithy was brilliant at that. Just being really clear around scrum strikes, phase. What are we trying to do? And it was just like I always remember it was like if you're in space, stay in space, and the ball will get the ball to you. And it was almost just as simple as that. It's. Yes, there was a lot of detail, but it was just like, right, how do we fill the field? How do we create the space? If the space is there, right, Pete's in space. How do we get the ball to Pete? Right, boom. That's how you do it. And then you go, right, be special, son. Do what you do and be special, and then, man, flood through and follow up. So it does sound really simple, but there is a lot of detail that goes into it to get to that. But certainly he made it seem that simple and gave you the confidence and was that 100% backing. So that was certainly some of the best coaches. Even Conor O'Shea was like that. Really good, taking the outcome away from you, giving you the confidence just to be yourself. Go out there and play. Like, if it doesn't work, it's on me type thing. Like just go out there and just keep being you, and you just get this like real confidence that you just snowballs, and you give this 14 others out there that snowball as well, and then you're humming. Then things just happen, and people aren't thinking.
Yeah. But mate, what a statement! Be special, son. I love that. So my first sport was basketball, and I'm hard on this. Basketball's a sport of like individual one-on-one moves. You play one-on-one pickup games, like dominating your opponent and manipulation. And I feel like rugby, we lost our. A lot of players feel like it's the team will solve the problem, whereas
Yeah.
New Zealand rugby is stepping, gassing, fending, those one-on-one, like be special, son. So, yeah, I'm so about that way and shifting people's mindsets into solving problems themselves and attacking. I want to shift. Can you talk me through your Aussie rules career?
You can call it a career. Yeah. Okay.
Well, if
Yeah.
you had a
No, it was.
conversation with the Swans,
Yeah.
Wikipedia,
Yeah.
obviously
Nice.
you're doing something right.
Yeah. No. It was. It came about. We had an Australian teacher at Westlake Boys, and we obviously did in rugby season, and other than that, you played cricket. Even in the morning. And I just remember him saying to a few of us at the rugby, he was just like, look, like, it's not that we're getting bored of cricket, but like when you start getting to the afternoon, you're out there for 5 or 6 hours. Just not the greatest game in the world for us when you're like 17, 18. So he said, "Oh, look, we've got there's a amateur Aussie rules team, Takapuna Eagles. I think we're down at Beecroft Park. We train down there. You want to come down?" And so we were like, "Yeah." So there's about three or four of us went down there, and I mean these guys were amateur, like they were like panel beaters, sparkies, they're all like smoking on the side before training, probably having a beer and things like that. And then they go out there and just train, and you get some of the, 4 or 5 young 18-year-olds, and we're just flying around booting the ball and going, this game's amazing.
Yeah, the
So
Aussie
we ended
rules,
up,
the Aussie rules
mate.
scene in New Zealand is a bit different.
Oh, mate, it was proper. And then you start playing people over in Auckland as well, and it's like, oh my god, like everyone's smoking before the game and things like that. But it was, oh man, it was brilliant, and it was like, so we really cottoned onto it. So we started doing that, and it was in the summer, and it kind of coincided a little bit with rugby. So you play rugby on a Saturday, play Aussie rules on a Sunday, and once you got into club, you do the same as well. Play East Coast Bays on a Saturday, and then usually get on the beers after, and then roll up on a Sunday and play a full game of Aussie rules. And so anyway, long story short, kind of kept playing, and they had a New Zealand under-21 side, and so we played in that, and then end up, me and my mate went over and got invited to train with Australian under-18. So we went over there and got a bit of coaching down there in Melbourne. Worked on which was unbelievable for my kicking game. It added 10, 15 yards onto my kicking game. My accuracy around my drop punt, when you kick past things, like was unbelievable. My drop was just so consistent. Even now, like muscle memory, the amount, like they just have us at the opposite ends of a cricket pitch, and we're just kicking hundreds of balls to each other. And it was just like, you just got to keep it on the cricket pitch, like just bang, 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 bang. And it was, it was brilliant. So we came back and played New Zealand. There's a New Zealand side, so we played a little bit of that, and then I had to choose. I basically, like, it was kind of rugby was taking off, and Aussie rules was there, and the Sydney thing was the team under the Victoria side. There was an opportunity to maybe go and trial for them, but I ended up choosing to stay at rugby and play went into the harbour system and kept that. But Aussie rules is an unbelievable game. Like, it was, in terms of my kicking ability, like, it revolutionized how I kicked the ball, and my consistency and my drop and where I was placing the ball and getting the best out of it was fantastic.
I had an experience. I went and did some coaching at Brighton. I lived in Melbourne for 5 years. When I did some coaching at Brighton Grammar, looked over to the Aussie rules field, and just boys, girls, 2 different sessions going on, and just I was blown away by like the touches, the kicking, the passing, the spatial awareness. So like you're getting this whole wave of females and males coming through Aussie that are playing this sport where they might touch the footy 500 times every time they go to a training session. And I think that's what you said about your experience, muscle memory. Kicking, I'm a big believer that your kicking game's a set of golf clubs, and a kick pass like Aussie rules is a style of kick that you need to build. So that's what you felt you built in your technique. And was there anything that really surprised you with how they teach that kick pass style?
Yeah, I'm much the same. Like, if you hear me around doing the kicking stuff at Quinn's, I'll probably relate a lot of the kicks to golf clubs. So I'll
Yep.
be like, mate, get your 3-iron out. You know what I mean? Like, where's that punch 3-iron? You know, like, or get your wedge out, or what, you know what I mean? Like I use a bit like you use real analogy around like golf. A lot of the boys play a bit of golf. Even if they don't, I kind of give them a picture of kind of the kick shape that I want to see from that. So yeah, like they were big on really for me around actually going back to what you said around that kind of touches. I remember we went and watched I think it was the Tigers Hawthorn train, and you know the Auckland grid, the little passing Auckland grid, they were doing this with like 40 meters apart with just kicking the balls, and just the accuracy, you know, on the chest, 40 meters, bang. It was unbelievable. It was phenomenal around what they were doing, and it was just relentless. And they had 2 balls going, and like you say, around the touches, it was just bang, someone bang, next one, bang, hand pass, next one.
Yeah.
So that was a real kind of eye opener around, like you say, touches and getting on the ball and the amount of actually kicks that they're doing. And you kind of think, how many touches are we getting in a rugby session? You know, like how many passes are they actually doing, and the quality of it, what they're doing. So that was something that I kind of reflect on a little bit.
Another part of the sport that I've loved speaking to their coaches about is like their understanding of the gift of this perfect end over end at head height clean catch, and then the flow on effect that has on their attack. And I also wonder, how aware are we making players of the gift of nose up spiral right on the money and that home position for your clean catch? Like, did you feel that coming through with the coaching?
Yeah, 100%. And I think you see it now. You watch, you know, a great movement in a Super Rugby game stifled by a poor pass that checks a player. You know, a kick pass that's not quite out in front stops that kind of movement. The quality, you know, is sometimes the be all or end all of that kind of movement and the ability to score a try. And so they were really big on that. As I said, like kicking the ball at the opposite ends of a cricket pitch. They were just massive on the alignment of ball over leg, over foot. They just kept drilling that. So whether you're front on, or we do a lot of front on, and then we do a lot of 45. And then that 45 is just not going round, but just getting the ball out in front and just getting that foot back and straight, like really massive on that. And that's what I coach now, and I still do, is just keeping that alignment of like where your foot starts, your leg starts to the point of the ball, and that the angle of the target, and trying to keep that. Yes, there'll be times where you have to come around the corner, and that's where like the more you do it, you get that feel. I mean, for me, that's a bit of a feel kick, like getting it out and getting around the corner and hitting it just below center, and you know, punching it through the air. Really big on getting the ball out in front. You know, it's like you drop it close to your leg. That's where you get your sandwich. The ball goes up, or it goes out to the right. You know, getting out in front, you get that really nice 4 or 5 iron that punches that real nice that shot shape. So they were massive on that, and just keep hammering it. And again, it goes back to that simple. You know, like, yes, there was the grip, yes, there was all that kind of stuff, but it was just that was the constant message: get out in front, keep everything in line, and just like, you know, kick through. And then you have your little drills, you know, landing on your kicking foot, you know, 2-step kick, land on your kicking foot, you know, standing still, kicking, holding your foot up, falling forward. All those types of things then comes out, but they're all aligned to what you're trying to do.
You mentioned it there, landing on the kicking foot, which is going to direct my next question. Firstly, golf. So I've really leant into golf. I used to think that they weren't similar, but now I'm more aligned that they are completely similar. And I guess one thing that I've really learned as the handicap starts to drop is the feeling of compression and getting that right. Is there anything other than the golf clubs that you're relating to golf with your kickers? What's your handicap?
9.
Oh, I'm 9.3.
So,
let's go.
Yeah. So just 9 I am at the moment. It's not great in the UK. It's too cold and wet at the moment. So it's nice down here though. Ooh, lovely down here at the moment. Mangawai Heads Golf Club, lovely. So I'm going to try and get down to the fancy ones. Is it Taraiti and all those? I'm going to try and get somehow get on those.
100%.
Smooth someone up.
Little guest
So not so much. Not so much. just trying to think off the top of my head. Not really. The clubs are probably the big thing. I think like getting through the ball has always been a big thing for me. You say it like you referenced before around 28 and your goal kicking's probably at that point where you're kicking really well. I actually came over and kicked really poorly in my first year.
Right.
Probably first year and a half. One, just getting used to the premiership, crowds that are silent, that was a psychological thing for me around that like I was like, jeepers, like actually everyone's watching me, like it actually took me a little bit by surprise. And so, and then I got to a point where I just wasn't getting through the ball. And so I think I would say most rugby players, when they start playing golf, it's all upper body and all arms. So you get to the ball and it's just all like whack, like how, I try and get the power from there and you don't get through the ball, you're just muscling it. So I definitely did that. So when I was, as you say, you're hitting the ball good, like it's, you're getting through the ball, like you say, compressed, but you're getting through the ball. And so that's where I came up, was like, right, I've got to get my stats from 70%. I think they were, I've got to get them up around 80 again. So I started going like that and going right at the top of my run up, going right, how do I get through the ball? And then obviously that then started to go like that. And then that became like a bit of a trigger, even though it was stupid. Like I had this kind of trigger of like, right, this is the trigger that's going to get me through the ball at the point of contact, mate. And it just took my stats up. I was just started getting through the ball. I was finishing through the ball, and yes, there's little drills that you can do, but it was just like a mental thing of like, right, what's my trigger to get myself through the ball? It's the same for kicking, and then that's where I use a lot of that kicking and landing on your kicking foot. Is just getting these guys that comfortable of like the whole body just getting through. Body weight forward, head over the ball. Yes, it's unnatural. You probably don't do it, but especially for kick passes, trying to kick pass and land on your kicking foot is like you keeping your head down. The ball's really clear. You don't lose sight of it. Like I'm really big on not losing sight of the ball. Like what it is, you lean back, and even though you think you're looking at the ball, you just lose sight of it, and that's the margin of difference that it can go on the outside of the foot or not. So landing your kicking foot for me just keeps you over the ball, head down. You keep it in line. You're heading towards your target. So I do that a lot, and I felt that really, really helped my kicking.
Interesting. So I love that cue, nose over toes, that a lot of the AFL guys use, just staying forward and seeing the ball, as you're saying. And then my one that I really coach through video review is winning half meter. So you win half a meter of space after impact, after your tee. How are you winning that space? What does it look like? Eyes, etc. It's really easy to track on video. When you first got over there, I'm sure some people were like, mate, what is that high kicking tee? We need to get you on a low one. We need to get you to Dave Allred and get your foot down and the Johnny. Like, I'm sure they were like, and then just so you know, myself and Hayden Parker both jumped on the Nick Evans. It was you and Luke McAllister were using it.
Yes, it was both of us. It was.
Yeah. I want to say it was a Steeden or a Simpkin or something.
I don't think they make them anymore. I couldn't find. I had to get some sent over, and then I couldn't find them towards the end of my career. I think they stopped making them. They're an Australian brand.
But they were so good. They were so soft and just it was
so
magic. We both followed you.
My mate used to have a high kicking tee, so I kind of started off that. And obviously just the normal cones that you have, and so they're always pretty high anyway. And then I kind of just got that one. It was probably a pure chance that I got it from Rebel Sport as it was back then, and I just put it on and started kicking, and I felt all right. And I remember this, I got into the All Blacks. It was 2004, and Grant Fox was he was a selector at the time, and I remember at training one time I was doing kicking after, and he's like, "Nah, you've got to get a small tee. You've got to get a small. You're going to kick way better than a small tee." And I was literally like, "Foxy, mate, I can't." This is a hero of mine, by the way. Like I grew up watching Grant Fox, and I was like, "I can't kick off a small tee." He's like, "No, here," and he gave me a small tee. I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Mate, I'm going to smash my foot into the ground here." Anyway, so I went back, went to kick it, smashed my foot on the ground, and I was just like, "What?" And but he was really insistent that no, you've got to keep doing it. And I was just like, what's he doing to me? Like, just leave me alone. Like, it's fine. Like, the high tee is what I do. It's fine. And yes, there's, I don't know. Like, I never had that kind of the way some kickers, how that piercing kind of through the wind type kick. Like mine was never
Right.
really like that. So I did have to adjust for the wind a little bit, but I did get to a point where that never really became a problem. You know, I just got my adjustments right, and I knew where I was putting it, and I knew my Pythagoras and all that kind of stuff, and where the wind was coming. But yeah, like Foxy was trying to change the kicking style. Just nearly broke my foot like on the ground. I was just like, no, I'm not listening to this. I'm not listening to my hero. Like, yeah.
And like I agree. My advice when anyone asks me about kicking tees, we've got a full range, and kickers love their tee. You need a tee that your miss kicks are only just grazing uprights. Like ball flight is really what we're chasing in this game of goal kicking. Like piercing ball flight, enjoyable tee to use. So that's why a lot of people don't like lows or don't like highs, is because chase ball flight over and enjoy your kicking sessions. You don't want to go down and be duck hooking everything. Did you get a bit of pressure when you first got to Quins around following the Dave Allred method?
A little bit, not too much. I think, I think like probably coming across as an All Black, has been to a World Cup. I don't think anyone really said boo to a goose to me really around things like that. But he would come down a little bit, and there'd be a few other kind of the kicking guys around with England that would come down and do a few sessions with the guys and jump around and ask questions about it. But I was really, I was kind of really set in my ways by then, you know, as you say, 28, 29, like I kind of adjusted my kicking to get the stats back up, and that was more of a getting through the ball thing, but it definitely didn't change my my tee or anything like that. And I probably refined my routine during the week, which I find is really important. Obviously, you know, you probably coach your kickers is like just having a schedule and a routine that you can really fall back on. I kind of went away towards the back end of my career of a lot of the drills, like you see a lot of people kicking side on to posts and putting cones out. I kind of got to a point where I used to do a lot of that, but I got to a point where the game for me was it was so random. You never knew where your first kick was going to be. So I'd always randomize my training, and I just got to a point where if I could just be so muscle memory, probably got it from Aussie Rules around my kicking. And so every session would be very similar around full kicks, you know, no real half kicks, trying to, you know, focus on a few areas. I'll just try and keep it really similar.
And we will be right back. This episode is brought to you by Fast Shipping from Rugby Bricks. We now have fulfillment centres from both New Zealand and Australia, meaning that you get your teas basically the next day. When you order a tea, say in the morning, potentially it could be there the next day, and if not, definitely the day after next. Here is 2 reviews that we've recently got and a piece of advice when it comes to picking your kicking tea. Macaulay A says, buy this tea. This is my 3rd mid-cut that I've brought, and I loved all 3, and I will keep buying them for ages. The ball placement is amazing. I love the range, the colours, and fast-ish delivery time. Well, that's got even better, that fast-ish delivery time. I would definitely buy this tea if I was looking for one. K.A. Great tea. Just ordered my second one. Very flexible and great material. Adds at least 5 meters to my kick. We constantly hear that when someone gets their very first kicking tee, their RB Vortex, and they go for their first kick, they're blown away by how good it feels and how much it improves their kicking. There is something about a good kicking tee that just gives you confidence. Belief and confidence are real things, team. So how do you pick a kicking tee? If you've never had to pick one, this is what I would do. Mid-cut. Start with the mid-cut. It is our best-selling kicking tee. Most of the pros use either the mid-cut or the low-cut. It's just such a great height to learn and get started with. So if you want an answer, you want get this tee without thinking, go with the mid-cut. The second answer would be you got to test a few tees out. So most people's progression go from a Coke bottle to a field cone, then they get a mate's tee, then they might use a boot or a shoe, and then they purchase their very own kicking tee and RB Vortex. That's the natural progression. So you got to do a little bit of work. You got to feel out what it is and what height suits you and your kicking style. What you're chasing is enjoyment and good strike, and can I get the ball up in the air, and can I enjoy my kick? So when you're missing kicks, you're only just missing the posts. So what tee, what size, what height allows me to execute that? Right now, all the kicking tees are available from rugbybricks.com, and like I said at the start of this, we've got fulfillment out of both New Zealand and Australia and the rest of the world, and our lead times have got even quicker. Back to the podcast. Couple more. I want to talk about your goal kicking, coaching, bit of Otago stuff, and then your time with England. The goal kicking, was there any, we've got outwork, outlearn as our Rugby Ricks mantra. Was there a time in your career that got you to Super Rugby, got you into the All Blacks, where you were just like, I'm obsessed, I'm fully committed, I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my career?
On goal kicking or anything?
Yeah, just on anything.
Just on anything? Yeah, probably. I reckon it was probably when I got dropped by the All Blacks. I reckon.
Right.
Like I wasn't always the greatest rugby player. I don't think. Like in terms of coming through, like I had to work really hard. Like I was smaller than everyone else and had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. So I did work hard. But then I felt I got really comfortable when I kind of made Super Rugby, and then because it happened quite quickly. Like in the space of 18 months, I went from club footy to being All Black. So it happened really, really quick. Came through the old way. No, I didn't make a rep side until I was 21, and kind of just got seen at the right place. Played good footy. Got through Super Rugby. Went to the Highlanders. Got into the All Blacks, and I probably, to be honest, I probably relaxed a little bit. And then I got dropped, and I kind of look at myself. And I remember I wrote it on a piece of paper. I said, I wrote down. I said, "Do I want to be an All Black? Yes, I do." And then afterwards, I said, "Well, fucking train like one." And so I did that. I did, and then I became really obsessive around like extras, skills. That was my point of difference. I was always fast in my acceleration, but I had to try and be as skillful. I wasn't as powerful, but so that was probably a big turning point for me, I reckon. And I became really obsessed around it. Had a routine around my kicking, a real proper routine through the week. Knew when I was going to do my restarts, my goal kicks, my touch kicks, my attacking kicks. Had it all mapped out. And that became something that I could really rely on and go back and be accountable for.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't have that accountability as I was coming through. So that certainly helped. And then that probably took me to the next level after that. And I continued that at Quins. And I say about 28, I reckon probably I peaked around 31, 32, I reckon. I think that was the time when I was like, everything, not the game was easy, but like, because it was extremely hard, but like I knew for the most part, I was going out there comfortable and not thinking about and overthinking things.
Game was in a really good place. That's such a cool, what a great example of that time where you had to lean in. And I think when I remember you playing, you always had one or two little moments in games, a line break, a chip kick that comes off, like a moment. And if you can back that up with a rock solid kicking game, goal kicking, you can go in and just back yourself and be like such a valuable key to the puzzle, right? Which probably so that hard work paid off and you got selected. Who were you up against at the time for the 10 jersey?
Oh, the big man. Carter was there. I was actually originally, when I first came through, Carter was 12. So it was actually the first year was, I think Carlos and Mertz were there. I'll show my age now. And then obviously they left in 2004. And then so Carter started playing 10. Luke McAllister was coming through at the time. So it was pretty much Carter was the one. And mate, it is what it is. He was a pretty good player. He was a pretty good player. So I could laugh about it now, but it was. I was really proud of what I achieved, and I did what I could do when I got the opportunities, and that felt I played pretty well. I got to a World Cup, and everyone would have loved more, but it was what it was. And then I made the decision to go overseas, and I probably carried that on overseas and managed to play really well for Quins and win some trophies and play 200 games. And it probably, that kind of fighting mindset probably helped me in the All Blacks.
Yeah. And my advice to all players is you'll be so proud of your effort if you actually get after it, whatever happens, whatever the outcome. And like what you just said, then you're proud of what you did there and turned it around. I love that. Otago, when I also think about you, I think cotton jersey, Otago, just carving it up. Just quickly, you came down. Where did you live? How was your first year? And what was that experience of Otago life for you?
Oh man, I loved Otago. I loved Otago. It was when because it was back in the days when the Super Rugby teams had to protect people, and then if you didn't, you get into a draft. So I think back then, Otago, what they did really well back then is I think they really thought about who they were going to select, because it was always they were always getting people from outside, I think, at the time, and there was always a few that would come down, and I think during that time they did it really well. So they selected me, and I think they maybe saw me as a bit of a succession to Brownie, because it was Brownie's last year at 10. That year was awesome. I mean, and that's super. I know I played 15 for the majority of that year. I played 10 a couple of times. I think as a bit of maybe a trial to see if I could, take that 10 spot off Brownie. But man, some of the players I was playing with, I mean, man, our front row, like, Oliver, Muse, Hoft, Malin, Josh Blackie. Oh man, it was awesome. And we had a good time. We had a great time. Like the court sessions and the socials that we'd have, and I had a fantastic time, and hence why I ended up, because I played one Super Rugby there and then went back to Harbour, and I just wanted to move down and really immerse myself in the Otago culture. And I probably the one frustration is I'd probably had a few too many injuries, and I probably didn't be able to play as much as I would have liked to. I had a pretty bad collarbone injury in Pretoria, and I did my hammy a couple of times, so it probably stagnated me a little bit. But I loved putting the blue jersey on. I love the people. I love the town. It was fantastic, and I look back with really fond memories of Otago itself, Otago, and Otago rugby.
Where did you live? Who did you live with?
Where did I live? The first one was in Kaikorai Valley, I think it was. Kaikorai Valley. Then we moved to Musselburgh. Then we were down Musselburgh. Actually, I tell you, the first place we were, I don't know if they're still there, but there were station apartments, probably down by where the ground is now, I think, probably down that way. But there were station apartments, and I was staying there, and next door to me were the Fijian boys. Tui Levu was there, Tani Vula was there. And you'd wake up some mornings and there'd be like 30 Fijians on the lawn having a kava session at like 6 a.m. It was mental. Like it was proper mental. But yeah, that was probably my first experience down there in station apartments, going, this place is like, what's this? And then Studentville was up, student section was up in that top corner down the road there. It was so good. Like those were the days, the good old days. So I kind of lived down that way, and then Musselburgh, stayed there for a little bit, and then that was it.
Yeah, it was so fun watching that battle, you and Brownie battling it out. You mentioned there around the 10 and 15 jersey. There's a bit of that happening in New Zealand rugby at the moment. D-Mac, Bodie, Marcus Smith with you. You had it as a player. Was there a point in your career like, mate, I'm a 10, I'm done with this?
Yeah.
Or were you always, I'll do what's best for the team? And if someone's in that position, how do you attack it? Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, I think at the start I was always, it was definitely do what's best for the team. And certainly it was probably that coming through Harbour into that first Super Rugby campaign with the Highlanders.
Starting jersey. Right?
I really wanted to nail my flags to the mast and have a go at that number 10 jersey. I wanted that to be I wanted the Highlanders number 10 jersey, and I wanted the All Black number 10 jersey. So I said, look, I want to play. I'll go back there if you want me to, but I want to set the stall out and say this is where I want to play. So that's what I did do. I think now, I don't know, maybe the game's changed. There seems to be a bit more around. Certainly Razor likes players that can play multiple positions. I think it certainly gives you a string to the bow. Like I definitely wouldn't begrudge it in having the ability to play. Like if you're a 10 that can play 12, brilliant. If you're a 10 that can play 15, that's great. The old French 9 that can go to 10, like that kind of thing. If you can do that, the old John Preston. If you can do that, that's brilliant. It certainly makes you valuable. It certainly makes you valuable to the team.
And for a make-up on the bench.
Yeah, definitely. I think Marcus Smith one's really interesting because I actually feel really sorry for him. It's not just because I coach him and he's at Quins, but he's been their best player in England for the last 2-3 years, and I think people are forgetting that. And I think it's almost a little bit now because he's a bit of a maverick. and I don't think the English. I don't know the English system, whether they like Mavericks, even though they say they like Mavericks. Like, it seems easy to be a bit of a fallout for it. And obviously Finn Smith came in and did really well. And but
Yeah.
look, I just think he does. Marcus sees the game so different to like 90% of the English players. We're lucky at Quins because he's been there so long. We've got 50 people that know what he's going to do. They react and they're on his shoulder, or they know in this situation he's more likely to do this. He's going to look for that cross kick. So wingers hold the field, fill the field, use your real estate. I just think there's a bit of in England, and not everyone's quite right on the same wavelength with him, and therefore sometimes I think he gets a bit of the fault with that, which I think is a bit disappointing. But both really good tens, and I think for Marcus having the ability to do both makes him really valuable. But I know he wouldn't be enjoying being put with a 15 on the back. He'd want to play 10. He want to demand and run the game, which I think he's brilliant at.
So can you remember a point where you spoke with coaches and said, hey, look, I'd prefer just to play 10? Stop giving me work on the full
Greg Cooper. Yeah, Coops was a coach at Highlanders then. So I think it was the year after probably towards the end of that year with Brownie. I think Brownie said he was leaving anyway because I think it was his last year. So we kind of knew that. I said, oh, look, like, I want to be 10. I don't want to, you go and get someone else. Obviously you'll have another 10 in there, but don't think about getting someone else that you want as your number 10. I want the number 10 jersey. So I had a conversation which he was really good at. And it was the same for Otago in the NPC, when obviously we played NPC back in those days, and it was the same. Just put me at 10, and if you need me to drop back, I'll drop back. But I want the number 10 jersey.
Outstanding. And just to wrap, mate, your time with England, what an awesome opportunity to international footy. Your perspective, your takeaways, your learnings, what's different, the coaching group. And I'm actually really keen to hear about English boys. I've heard and lads. Eddie Jones has spoken about a little bit, but different culture and coaching them and how they think. What was your experience?
Yeah, really, really great experience. I think it was Steve Borthwick's first campaign in the Six Nations. Yeah. So I think, if I'm being brutally honest, like in the first campaign, it was all about being hard to beat. So getting the defence right, get your kicking game right, get your set piece right. Right. Even though he's probably sold it that we wanted to play like Quins, I didn't get a lot of coaching time to do that. So I kind of knew that might be the fact anyway. So I just tried to learn as much as I can and just challenge myself to see if I could be comfortable coaching at that level. It made me a way better coach. Being really convicted in my beliefs and what I was coaching to British Lions, 100 Test English internationals. They were brilliant, by the way. The players were awesome. So I really enjoyed it, and I learned so much. It made me a way better coach, made my delivery in meetings a lot more succinct and concise and really clear. I came back with a lot more confidence around delivering in meetings around that, which was fantastic. The Six Nations is a hell of a competition to coach in. You get 1 week before the start of the competition, and then bang, you're into it. You're into the Scotland week, or whatever it is.
I'll just jump in. Speak more to that conviction and confidence. I'm a big believer, monkey see, monkey do. So did you just see other people and you're like, okay, that's how it needs to be done, like step up, I need to be that in that situation?
I think I'm quite an introvert, really, but when it comes to rugby, I do get extroverted a bit. But I always get nervous around speaking in front of people. I think most people do, but I was comfortable doing it at club level. But this is, you're delivering to Owen Farrell, who's played 100 tests, Mako, British Lions, you know what I mean, Murrow. But so these guys that you see, and I've played with before, played against as well. So again, I leaned on my philosophy, relationship first. So even though I've probably hated the Saracens guys playing against them. Forming relationships with them, it was really important, and then that helped the delivery and things like that. So I think it just, it's just another level up. It's just like as a player, there's no margin for error at the top level, and that has to be the same for coaching as well. So I felt like I dealt with that really well, and got a lot more confidence as I got through. And Steve's pretty hard on the coaching group as well, so getting used to him was a big thing. and yeah, as I said, the Six Nations is man, it's fast and quick. There's no time. You're away for 8 weeks. Even though I was up the road from my house, I never got home. It's pretty tough on the family. Like being away, it's just relentless. So that was something to get used to. For a good insight into what international footy is about.
Why is it so relentless?
It was just because like you come from one, I had to do 2 jobs. So I was doing like Quins a little bit, then into England. So that was tough in itself. But you basically go from Europe, you go from Premiership to Europe, and then after Europe, you're in you go straight into camp. You've got 1 week, and then you're into the first Six Nations game. So whatever you need to get in. So for example, they had no attacking system. Eddie Jones before was all about momentum and round the corner type thing. So I had to implement in a week a 1-3-3-1. It's just no time. So you talk about being simple and being clear and getting messages across quickly that these guys can learn. Far out. That was proper. And it was a great challenge. It was an awesome challenge. So yeah, it's just relentless. Then you go bang, bang, 2 games, and you get a fellow week, and you're training, and then you get another one, and then all of a sudden 8 weeks is done, and then boom, it's all done. So
there's a misconception around that. Like a week to prepare isn't a week. It's potentially a meeting and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
On grass.
And if that really, if you're thinking about attack, and you've got to put contact and set piece and defense and kicking game and unstructured and all that kind of stuff. So
how did you approach? Can I ask you a question? How did you approach your first presentation to the boys? Right, boys, we haven't got much time. Here's what we're gonna do.
Well, my first one was at Twickenham, because there was a kind of a launch thing going on there for the Six Nations, and I remember we were upstairs. I mean, this is how ridiculous. I mean, doesn't seem like international footy, but I remember we were upstairs in one of the big conference rooms, and we cleared all the chairs out, and there was kind of like half a group were doing some kind of meeting thing, and the half group, like my first session for them was right lads, this is our attack system in this conference room. Let's run through it in this like big conference room, and then we're going to go outside and do it. So it was like, right, here's the TV, here's 1-3-3-1. This is basically what we want to try and get out of it. We want to do these 3 principles. This is all we're going to focus on. Boom, we'll go outside, and then we'll hammer it outside and just kind of not see how we go, but like we'll hammer those principles, and then we'll go from there. And they were really good. I mean, you're working with good rugby players, smart rugby players. And I think to your last question around like what the English boys are like, they love the detail. They love the detail side of it. So they kind of crave that. Sometimes as a bit of a blind spot. Sometimes it can be for some English players like, oh, what do you want me to do here? And what do you want me to do here? And then here, what do you want me to do? And here, what do we do? And sometimes it's like, mate, there's a gap. Just run. Like, have a crack. Be special. So sometimes it's giving them a bit of freedom of that. But no, it was a great time, great experience. Tough, but made me a way better coach.
Yeah, outstanding. Hey, I've really enjoyed this hour. It's been absolutely magic just to get some context and like your coaching experiences is only setting you up for future roles. Is there any plan to come back to New Zealand in the horizon, or happy what you're doing?
No, hopefully, definitely. I think, as I said, I've been here for 17 years, so I think we're both family. You've got 3 kids, so I think a new challenge is probably on the horizon a little bit. But we'll wait and see, mate. It's the old coaching thing, is someone's got to lose a job for me to get a job. So I just keep my eyes open and see where opportunities may present themselves. So I'd definitely love to come back and give back to New Zealand rugby. It's where it all started for me. So I'd love to come back and help the young generation of rugby players come through and hopefully achieve some of what I achieved in common New Zealand rugby.